Greetings as you're coming on board. Be greeted. Thank you so much. We are live. We are live. We're going to be discussing illegal immigration. Illegal immigration. I hope you can hear me. If you can't hear me properly, just make me aware. If you can't hear me properly, just make me aware. I decided to take a much more relaxed environment to talk to you. It's a bit cold, so yeah. Be greeted as you're coming on. I see, is it Jean? I see you. I see Nolo. As you're coming on, be greeted. Thank you so much. Let me just do this so I can see all of you coming in. KMM, is it KM Mpahlele? I also see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As you're coming on board, be greeted. Thank you so much. I just want to see all of you as you come on. Be greeted. Thank you so much. Nosipho WB, you are also welcome. As you're coming on, thank you so much. Lady Lee, you are welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tato, you are welcomed as well. Is it Pax Mabunda? You are welcome. Sizwe, you're also welcome. Bafana Nkosi, Simon, Subs, you guys are welcome. User, it just says user. Nobuhle, you are welcome. Malebohang, as you are welcome. Zanele, Togo, Mama Girls, user 34, Brenda, Shakir, user 32, Ntsiki, Shenge, is it Nchenge, Likona, Munashe, Keto, you are welcome. Peter, you are welcome. Cyber King, you are welcome. Tukulo, Angelo, AD, you are welcome as you coming on. Christelle, Mavuta, you are welcome. Hleki, Wendy, is it Sbongilo, Sbong, Meles, Peter, Wisani, Tomo. A lot of you are coming on. Haga, Purple Rain, you are welcome. Chums, you are welcome. Sipei, Zulu Fox, you are welcome. Eunice and John and Kashif, Sazin, Zimande, Ruth, Nkosi, Sharon. Oh, you guys, it's a lot. You already passed 100. And I'm trying to mention all the names. Senzi, Zaude, Gold Rose, Mpoza, Ayaz. You are welcome. Ashajire, Mama Tato, Nona. You are welcome. Jarid, Simpiwe, Sharon. You are welcome as you're coming on. Beautiful Adam, Rulani, Sharon, Samuel. As you're coming on, thank you so much. I can't mention all of you. Mudiehi, Putiwami, Rolnel, Ayana, Lynette. Oh, and Big Sana. Big Sana, you are welcome. Real Africa. You are welcome. Thank you for those who are liking the live. Thank you for tapping on your screens. You are much appreciated as you are doing that. Thank you so much. Makumo, you are welcome. Big Sana. Nosipo W, I've seen you. Thank you for all who are liking the like. Jobe, thank you for coming through. Prince, thank you for coming through. For all of you who are liking the live, I see the numbers are looking really good today. We're going to have a good time today. And I hope you are ready for us to discuss illegal immigration. For the most part, all of you know that tomorrow is going to be a big day because there's going to be quite a lot happening in the country. There's going to be so much happening. So I think one of the things that I desire in my heart is that I just hope there's no bloodshed. I just hope everything happens peacefully because it's a very sensitive time for our country, and we don't also want to come across as vigilantes and ruthless people. So I think for me, it becomes critical that as a nation, we also manage that well. So there's been conversations on social media, and I think I would like to hear from you guys, honestly speaking. I would really like to hear from you. What is your take on illegal immigration? What is your take on illegal immigration? And I strongly believe that it's one of those things that I honestly want to hear from you guys. People have been talking. A lot has been happening online. It's been on the news. It's been on podcasts. And a lot of things have been said. I've got my own opinion, and I think I've shared this with you guys last week as well. Some of the people have been coming onto my not timeline, but on my inbox, wanting us to discuss this thing sooner because they felt if we discuss it tomorrow night, it would have passed already. So I'm happy to have this chat with you guys now, just to find out what your take is. What are you thinking? What is it that you have in mind concerning illegal immigration? So this entire thing that's happening now, What is your feeling around it? What is your feeling around it? Are you happy with this 30th of June, which is tomorrow, that is being set as a deadline? Welcome to all of you who are coming on. You can greet if you like. We'll try to greet you back if we can, but I'd really appreciate your interaction as well. It's quite appreciated. So I want to hear from you guys. What is your take? What is your take on this? Let me understand where you are coming from. Never mind the camera moving around. I'm not set up on a table today. I decided to take a cozy sort of environment so that I actually get to relax. It's a bit cold, so I'm sitting in the blankets just to stay warm as well. Evening, Mudier. It's good to have you on board. Thank you so much. I hope you're going to have fun. Let's have a discussion. Talk to me, guys. I'd like to hear from you guys. What is it that you believe is happening in the country right now? Do you think we are having the right kind of conversations? Do you think we are having network issues? But good evening, everyone. Miss K, thank you so much. It's good to see you after a very long time. Thank you so much for coming through. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you think South Africans are, and I'll just share my 2 cents worth, because from where I am, I just feel like to some extent South Africans, thank you for the gift, Zeti. I appreciate that. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Thank you. So I personally believe that we are good at having conversations about light topics. When it's South Africa playing the World Cup, them losing or winning, we are very happy to engage on those conversations. We are very much actually engaged. It's Nosipo says, hey, this subject numbers just dropped. This subject numbers just dropped. I am shying away from the subject. Yeah, look, I don't see why we should shy away. And that's one of the reasons why I'm having this live session. Whether the numbers drop or they increase or they do what, I'm not typically bothered by that. I personally believe that as South Africans, we carry the responsibility to have the right kind of conversation. And the more sensitive a conversation is, the more it actually requires us to chip in, because many a times you will find that the narrative is dictated by only a handful of people. And that creates a bit of an issue for us, because at the end of the day, you'll find that only a handful of people are articulating what should be South African issues. But obviously, they'll say they are representing South Africa, which is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But we need to have the general population of South Africans actually chipping in on the conversations. We shouldn't feel comfortable and free discussing light issues. You know, when it's gossip, a scandal, something that went wrong, a disaster, a catastrophic event, South Africans are very good at engaging on those. They will share their thoughts. They will say whatever they want to say. They will share their mind. They are not going to even waste time. But when it comes to real issues, issues that have to do with how our government is run, issues that have to do with how certain things are happening in the country, South Africans tend to shy away. And I think we need to learn from other countries. And I think having seen how other countries have responded to the way South Africa has been handling this foreigner discussion, whether you want to call it xenophobia or whether you want to call it persecution of migrants, or you want to call it illegal migrants, it's entirely up to you. However way you want to take it, I want to hear from you, because we are not having that conversation. And when the general population of South Africans that are on social media are not having the right conversation, the rest of the world believes whatever nonsense they find on social media. Most of it, if you know some of the, I mean, you saw it from how it happened with South Africa and the United States of America, and how certain things were being used. And you look at some of the images and the videos and stuff that were used to propagate a certain narrative. It was really sad that you'd find people using old videos, irrelevant videos to what they are trying to argue, and they are using that as a point of argument or a point of departure. And this becomes a bit of a situation, you know. And Miss K says, I would also like to talk about it because it speaks to us as citizens. I appreciate that so much. Golden Cindy says, there's something like a stick down there affecting when you press on it, you will see stickers. You can. Okay. There's something like a stick. I don't understand what you are saying there. I can't see a stick. Let me go back to that. Something like a stick. So when I press on it, what happens to it? There's something like a stick down there. It's effects. When you press on it, you will see stickers. You can, okay? Or write your topic there. Okay. Thank you so much. But it looks like a pen. Doesn't look like a sticker. Oh, it says sticker. So I must actually click on sticker. Sound effects, jewel, beauty effects. Let's say sticker. All right. I'm learning today. Thank you so much, guys. Let me see. Let's have this. Let's have this as a tag. But it says ask me anything. I'm not trying to ask. Delete this. Drag and delete. Oh, okay. I see. Okay, I see. I can actually, even if it says ask me anything, I can still actually just type. Okay. Okay. What is your opinion? Okay, let's see. Dialogue. Okay. I don't know if it's gonna stick. There we go. Okay, that's sticking. Can I make it bigger? I can't. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate. It's not too long. I see it. I tried not to make it too long. Does it look good? Perfect. Lovely. Thank you so much. Golden Cindy, much appreciated. I didn't even know I could do that. I appreciate that so much. I've always wanted to have something that actually puts the topic so that people don't come in and ask, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Thank you so much. Much appreciated that. Let me just also look at the comments. Okay, I've written the topic there. Thank you so much. Tato says, what's the topic today? I've already done it. Thank you so much to Golden Cindy. Much appreciated. Mudieri says, I've been at Botswana last year. I was so surprised. Never seen Mekuku like South Africa, also at Zim. Yeah, you see, these things happen. They happen almost everywhere. So let's just read these comments. Mudieri says, Botswana looks out for their people. They are very strict, even to us South Africans. Of course, they enforce their own laws, and this is very critical. And I can tell you right now that when a country does not enforce its own laws, it creates even bigger problems. So talk to me now. I want to hear from you. Let's have a conversation. What is your take on illegal immigration? What is your take on the current situation? Let's have a discussion. What is your take on the current conversation? And I'm sharing what I personally believe, because what I've seen is that there's been confusion around what has trickled down in terms of a conversation. And more than half the time, you will find that what has been accepted as a norm, or what has been accepted as a conversation, is actually quite confusing. You do find certain characters or certain individuals that are propagating a certain way, or rather a certain way of thinking towards this. And I think that understanding they've been trying to push to propagate. But the sad part is that you will find that in as much as we are strong in demonstrating, going out and showing the rest of the world how unhappy we are where certain things are concerned, but we also find ourselves in a space where we can't always necessarily articulate well what we need to articulate for the rest of the world to understand why we are demonstrating. And it's understandable. And I've been saying this even in the past, to say it was easier during the oppression days and all of that for us to use demonstration as a tool. And some people will say, yeah, that's the only language our government understands. But you see, times are moving, things are evolving. And because times are changing and things are evolving, we will need to learn as South Africans to also have as much dialogue as we are having demonstration. And when we don't have the right kind of dialogue, when we don't have the right kind of conversations, and we think that demonstrating will always be a solution for us, the sad part is that we are now part of a global society. Social media is now as rife as it is more rife now than it has ever been before. The simplest of things that can happen in a country, the simplest of things that can happen in a township or anywhere else can end up on a global platform in seconds. And we need to learn to understand that part of how we propagate the narrative as a country determines how the rest of the world sees it. You can sit there and say, I don't care how they think about us. We are fighting for our own country, this, and that. But you must realize that as a country, you are part of a global community. And what you do as a country, what you get involved in as a country, what you say as a country, what you push as a narrative as a country has the ability to affect the perspective or the perception that everyone else outside your country has. In an event where we fail to conversate as we should, many a times you will find that people misunderstand what we are trying to say. And when they misunderstand what we are trying to say, people have developed a unique ability to just misinterpret things and just take whatever. Sometimes you will see people saying xenophobia in South Africa and they are using videos that are 5-10 years old. And you sit there and you realize this is now becoming so toxic. But it's also because the people who are supposed to be having the conversation are not having the conversation, thereby allowing everyone else who wants to speculate to have the right kind of platform to be able to say whatever they want to say. It's so sad that it even gets to a place where some people who are business leaders, who should have the decency to investigate stuff before they say something, people who are important figures in their societies or even in their countries, some are even spiritual leaders, pastors and all, they find themselves in a space where, and it's one of those things that are difficult to deal with, because at the end of the day, you find yourself in a space where you have to deal with things that are far from what you need to deal with. This becomes important. This becomes very important. And I'm saying this because I'm trying to put us in a space where when we have conversations, we need to have the kind of conversations that allow us to be able to discuss what really is pertinent and what is really affecting us. And part of that discussion has to do with South Africans having the right kind of conversations. And those conversations can only happen only when we actually deal with the right kind of issues. So what conversations must we have? And this is why I'm coming here now and I'm saying to you, let's have the conversation. Let's have the conversation, because when we have that conversation, we are putting ourselves in a space where we will be able to deal with what we need to deal with in accordance to what the general public believes to be the issue. And when we do that and we create platforms like this where we can talk about this thing and actually have it out there so that the rest of the world and everyone else in Africa who's looking at South Africa can be able to understand what the real issue is. So I'm trying to come now and say, let's have the conversations. Let's have the discussion. Because in the absence of those discussions, we will find ourselves in a very difficult situation. So we need to talk. We need to understand each other. We need to be able to have one voice when it comes to the issues that we are dealing with. What is the challenge with us not talking? One of the biggest challenges with us not talking is that we will find ourselves in a space where the people that are running campaigns and they are running all these things at the top, if they don't propagate the message properly all the way to the ground, you will find that at the ground, there might be misdirection in terms of how things are rolled out. For an example, I hear, and that's what I'm saying this to you now, that I hear a lot of times when we are having these conversations, a lot of people will say, all the foreigners must go. All the foreigners must go. So are we saying all the foreigners must go, or are we saying we are trying to deal with the issue of illegal immigrants? The second discussion we need to have is it wise for us to be attacking people who are migrants? Do we really have the necessary tools to be able to determine whether those people are able to determine, or rather we are able to determine from the streets whether those people are legally here or not? Or is it something that should be done at a compliance level where we should be actually marching against our own government to say, you are not enforcing, you are not doing what you're supposed to do, you are not dealing with what you're supposed to deal with? What is it that actually should be happening? Is it really sensible for us to go out there and terrorize people? What if then, if we don't have the right kind of conversation, some other people that are on the ground will end up becoming violent towards other people? What will happen in that case? Where people end up being so violent towards others that there's bloodshed and there's all sorts of things happening because the right kind of conversations are not happening. Hence, I'm saying right now that it becomes important for us to then have that chat. Let's have that conversation so that we understand. So I'm waiting for you guys to share your thoughts. I'm waiting for you guys to tell me exactly what you think. What is it that you think it should be the conversation that we are having? Are we saying all foreigners must go because the rest of the world thinks that's what we are saying? Or are we saying that some of them that are illegal or the ones that have entered the country illegally are the ones that we are trying to deal with? And this is important. So, yes, and I've mentioned this even previously, that normally, and I see Paco is saying the same thing as well. Normally, when we find ourselves in a space where we are dealing with elections, every time when elections are coming, we will find ourselves in a space where we have to deal with a lot when it comes to issues that have to do with running the country and the ills that we are experiencing as the general population. And it's bound for these kind of things to happen. And I think if you've looked at the cycle when it comes to elections in South Africa, whether it's local elections, whether it's national elections, there's always issues that come up. Even in the other time, we dealt with many issues concerning the general public. We had to also deal with some of the issues that had to do with what is happening on the ground that normally comes out when we have to deal with elections. And I'm saying this because I want us to get into a space where we can have that discussion to say, what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with all the migrants, or are we dealing with illegal immigrants? What is it that we are dealing with? So that when we have the conversation, we have the conversation and we understand what is happening. Now, just to share with you, because some people don't even realize that what is currently happening in South Africa, it has also happened in other countries before. It has happened before in other countries. And I'm not just only talking Nigerian, because even Nigeria, some years back, they experienced exactly the same thing, where they found themselves in a space where they were dealing with illegal migrants, or rather, let's say migrants. And it was mainly Ghanaians because they are the closest to them, because that was the general population of. And at that time, Nigeria was doing very well economically. And the closest neighboring countries then went and got to them. Now, it becomes important for you then to realize, to say, okay, I find myself in a space where I have to deal with this. Now, there are people in the country. How do you then work around it? Because at the end of the day, they managed to chuck all those people out of their country. They managed to get rid of whoever they got rid of, but it didn't change much. So whatever that they were dealing with or trying to fight did not actually really work for them. It didn't change much. I'm not trying to say that us telling trying to push that illegal immigrants must go is not going to change anything. That's not what I'm saying. I want you to hear me. Also, you will find that in other countries that are outside of Africa, they deal very harshly with illegal immigrants. They will arrest them. They will do all sorts of things. There's a lot that is happening in those spaces. What I'm trying to basically get to is to ask you a question and say to you, in the absence of the right conversations happening, do we think that we have the right kind of solution? Do we think that what we are planning to do will solve the problem? What is it that we have in mind? What are we thinking? And I'm trying to pick that up, and I'm trying to understand that. And I'm saying to you guys, you need to have the conversation. And some of you are saying this is a problem that many countries are facing. Yes, it's true. A lot of countries are facing it. And you're saying, some of them are saying they don't see white illegal foreigners going. And can we explain that? That's exactly why we are having the conversation. Because if it's an issue of black on black, then we also need to highlight it so that it's understandable. Are we being irritable because of that? What is the actual situation? Now, some people will also say, no, they are good immigrants and they are also bad immigrants. And you'll find that sometimes when you have bad immigrants in your country, those bad immigrants, most of the time, they mess up things for us. Now, I am saying that it's important to realize that if we look at it that way, then we have to dissect the matter and have the discussion probably and have it properly so that we are able to cover what we need to cover. So let's have the conversation. And I would like to hear from you. What is it that you think? So I've done a summary on my part. I'm trying to multitask here so that I'm able to connect. Now, there is enforcement failure that personally I have picked up from what the discussions have been. I'm not going to claim that I'm one of those people who understood, who's in the forefront of this whole thing, but I've been listening. I've been trying to, especially the people who are running the campaigns and they're ahead of everything else. I've been trying to figure that out. And from that, I've been trying to understand what is it that these people are actually saying. Because for me, the first thing that I've noticed being a biggest challenge for us as South Africans is that we have failed to enforce the law when it comes to migration law. We have failed to enforce the law when it comes to migration law. Whether it's Department of Home Affairs, whether it's South African Police Services, whichever it is that is responsible for whatever that they need to be responsible for, there is a serious gap, because even our borders are now in a space where they are not as secured as they're supposed to be. So what is the first thing that I believe is a problem? A systems failure. That for me is the biggest one. There is a serious systems failure when it comes to enforcement. When it comes to enforcement. And I personally believe that when we find ourselves in a space where we can deal with that, we will find ourselves in a space where we are now having the right kind of conversation. So if we have an enforcement problem, does it help for us to fight the people who have entered the country illegally? I was using the analogy of a boat. If a boat develops a hole while you are at sea, what would be the best thing to survive? Will it be to get buckets, get everyone take buckets and start taking the water out of the boat? Or will the easiest option be to try and plug the hole? Because if you plug the hole, then you can see the effort that you are putting in when you are trying to remove whatever else that is in the boat. If you are trying to get the water out, you plug the hole, it's easier to get the water out. But if you're not getting the water out, if you try to get the water out without plugging the hole, the likelihood is that you might be getting more water coming in than you can get out. Ultimately, you are going to drown. That's just my analogy on this. And what I've noticed is that even if we do decide to go out and march, you will have to realize that us going out to march and fight this thing, it has to be because we are dealing with what we need to deal with. And we are dealing with the right kind of conversations. And this, for me, is very critical. This is very critical. I hear that you are saying Jacinta has repeated this many times, which is good. But you can imagine, if she's not the only person saying it, it's the general public of South Africa. Then it's not a fight against a specific individual who is propagating a certain narrative, but it's a narrative that the rest of the country holds. It's a narrative that the rest of the country is actually running through. And I hope you understand what I'm trying to say to you right now. This is very critical. That understanding for me is what we then need to make sure that we push forward, that we analyze, that we have the right kind of conversations, and make sure that everything that we understand about this particular situation is what is propagated out there. I hope you are hearing me. So the second one that I realize is that apart from the fact that you've got entry in the border, you've got all these things happening in the border, and people are coming in, whether there's bribery involved, whether there is all these other things that are involved, I don't know what it is that is involved. But whatever it is that is involved, at the end of the day, if you have illegal immigrants, you will find yourself in a space where you are dealing with numbers that are in the country that are not accounted for. You are dealing with characters that are in the country that are not accounted for. And all of those things, you will realize that at the end of the day, you are not able to address the matter as you ought to. Now, why am I saying what I'm saying right now? I'm saying this because we're going to go out now, tomorrow. I'm not sure how they plan to do it. I'm not sure how it's going to pan out. Whether we're going to go out to fight people, whether we're going to go out to block people, or, I mean, I saw a lot of people posting today that a lot of shops, and they say it's illegal immigrant shops. But if I was a migrant, whether I was legal or not, I would also shut down my shop. Because I don't know what risk I'm exposed to. Whether they're going to look for paperwork, and if I show them paperwork, will they believe what I'm showing them? What will be the situation? So, yes, many a times you'll see these things are happening in areas where, for an example, in the townships, where people are, right now, it's people that are in the townships that are sick and tired of this. It's people that are in the cities that are sick and tired of exactly what Jacinta is touching on, issues of buildings hijacked and all these different things that are issues. Whatever it is that is an issue right now, you will realize that it becomes an issue of us not having the right kind of conversation. And that is why everyone on the ground is afraid, and rightfully said as well. People are afraid that their stores will be looted. Their stores will be looted, their stores will be vandalized. Maybe they might even be banned, or they might be beaten up themselves. So some of them have locked their shops and probably left or went somewhere else safe, or whatever the case might be. But what is the actual conversation? What is it that we are trying to fix? What is it that we are trying to deal with? Because when people come into the country and they are not accounted for, normally that creates a bit of an issue, because there's crime that cannot be investigated. Because even if someone commits a crime, whether you have their face, you can't really find them. Whether you've got their fingerprints, it does not really help because they are not in the system. It's difficult. It's difficult. And a lot of people are even using the radio shows, the shows that we see, the radio shows that we see. And they are using those radio shows, or rather those TV shows, to say, this is what we are finding, these are what the people are finding, your Moja loves and so forth. And they're saying most of the time when they find people doing bad things and this and that, it's one of those things that people then end up saying, but it's not yielding any results, because all we are seeing these people, and we are seeing that is that country, is this country, is that. And there's a lot of scapegoating that is happening, where people are being blamed. As to whether that is the general population or not, we don't know, because people observe and look at situations however way they prefer. I hope you are hearing what I'm saying. So I am asking you today, what is the real issue? What is the real issue? Because I've told you, for me, I see a security issue. I see a systems failure, that we can't secure our borders. We can't secure our what you call it, our boundaries, and they are broken down, and people can come in and out. And to some extent, some are saying there's even bribery at that level, where people can come in and bribe and do whatever that they are doing so that they are allowed in. Whether there's bribery at the Home Affairs level, where people can have fake IDs or this or that. I'm not sure what the issue is. But isn't the solution for us going and marching against our own government and demanding that they do the right thing concerning the South African people? Is that not the solution? Is that not the right kind of platform that we need to use, instead of violating and fighting with people whom we can't necessarily validate whether they are illegal or not? What is your take on this? The second thing that I'm picking up as well is that we find ourselves in a space where the security and the risk element in the country is becoming, some corner has a question. You can ask questions. You don't have to ask if you can ask questions. Security and risk exposure. That when you have undocumented people and they are rising in number in a country, normally that creates a bit of a challenge when it comes to how you manage stuff. And it is not easy to track those people. It is not easy to manage those kind of people. I hope you are hearing what I'm saying to you now. And I'm saying this because I want you to get into a space where you understand that it's not just the issue of having migrants in the country or illegal immigrants in the country, but it's also the issue of control. That when a country is unable to control and to track people, that creates an issue. But the last one, which I want to touch on before I allow platform, is that there's a lot of scapegoating. There's a lot of scapegoating and false accusations that will also happen, where people will take advantage of the fact that things are falling apart in that space, and they will do whatever they want to do to capitalize on it. More than half the times, you'll find that there are foreigners who are documented, but people, whether documented or not, they will equally be violated. And there are migrants that are documented, that have been in South Africa, and they have the right kind of visas, they have the right kind of paperwork, but they are also being violated. So us as South Africans, when we have this conversation, we also need to have the understanding that says, how do we then manage everything else that we need to manage? How do we then find ourselves in a space where we can deal with the challenges that we are dealing with? And I can tell you right now that the more dialogue we have, is the more we change the narrative. For me, and I see what Ms. K is saying, for me, in as much as we can have a lot of dialogues and we believe that those dialogues are not helping, for me, the most critical element here is that when dialogues are being held, dialogues are helping us to manage foreign affairs. They're helping us to manage foreign affairs, but secondly, they are also helping us to redirect internally some of the things that we need to deal with. Internally, some of the things we need to deal with. It's helping us to redirect and to also allow people to also to sing from the same hymn book, to manage things from the right kind of spaces. And that's my take of all of this. The reason why I'm saying this is because on the ground, like I said before, there could be a lot of misconceptions. There could be a lot of misnomers that are purely based from the fact that a lot of people might not understand the direction that this entire thing is taking. Dialogue cannot work because people in power don't implement what we agree on. I'm not talking about people in power. A people is rising right now. A people is marching right now. And I am saying that people that is rising, that people that is marching, doesn't only have to demonstrate, but they also have to have the right kind of conversations. Because demonstrating is only but part of dealing with the matter. There has to be a strong element of articulating the matters and the issues properly. There has to be an element, a very strong element of articulating the matters properly and being able to deal with issues properly. I hope you are hearing what I'm trying to say here. I'm not saying marching is wrong. It's allowed by law. We can march. But who do we march against? We march against government, which is fine. It's allowed. Maybe we might need to submit some form of memorandum or whatever the case might be. But over and above that, what conversations are we having? What conversations are we having with the rest of the world? What are the conversations? And I can tell you right now, this becomes very critical. I'll show you a very simple example. During the apartheid regime, the ANC was not in power. It was just another political party which was fighting, and it was in the struggle. It was trying to emancipate its own people. The leaders of that political party were out of the country on exile because of the risk of being captured and tortured or even killed in the country. What did they do? Instead of going there and going to acquire skills in terms of training and all these other things, some of them went to go and articulate the issues of the liberation movement to the rest of the world. They went to negotiate to the rest of the world. They went to go speak to the rest of the world to make them understand what is the real issue, to make them understand what is really happening. So, even the armed struggle that emancipated our people from oppression in this country, it was not devoid of conversation. It was not devoid of dialogue. Dialogue was at the center of that liberation movement. And it's important to understand, yes, there were other means that were applied. There were other means that were put in place, but dialogue was at the center of it all. And that's why I'm saying to you right now, the dialogue becomes very critical. That we don't just only go out and march, but we also have to make sure we have the right kind of dialogues. So Samcon, I see you are saying I must go back. You must talk to me so that I hear what you are trying to say. Because I want to understand, what is your view of the dialogue? What is your view of the dialogue? You can ask questions as much as you want. I don't have all the answers. We open these type of platforms so we can have dialogue. But asking questions is not dialogue. We need to come with conversations. Share your opinion. Tell us what you think. What is it that you're propagating as a person? What is it that you understand about this situation? So that we are able to actually find a way forward. Let's have a conversation. Let me hear you out. Let's understand. Let's put it out there so that the rest of the world can see what is it that we are trying to propagate. What is it that we are trying to say? I hope you are hearing what I'm saying to you right now. This is important for us. This is important for us. And if we do that, we will be able to have the right kind of conversation. I see you say you are trying. The government has let too many things slip through their fingers. They have. But the bottom line is that they have, and we need to have the conversation. We need to have the conversation. Yes, things are slipping through their fingers, but what are we doing about it? Do we always have to wait until the elections come before we make a hoo-ha about something? It's important to understand. So some concerns, how can you are still asking me questions? You are not sharing your opinion. Like I said, my opinion is very simple. We go out and march. We have a memorandum that is drafted on what we desire the government to do. We go and march and deliver that memorandum. Case closed. It's done. It's done. It doesn't have to be a complicated situation. It doesn't have to be a complicated situation of intimidation and making people feel unwanted in a country. Because we've got our own brothers and sisters outside of South Africa and other countries. It wouldn't be fair for them to be victimized where they are. So we can't do the same here. And I'm still also not saying that it is okay for us to allow illegal migrants to come into the country. It's not allowed, but most countries will not even allow it. Their migration laws don't allow it. Migration laws don't allow it. Some says memorandum has been delivered. No, memorandum will be delivered on the 1st. After tomorrow, on the 1st, there will be a memorandum delivered, and it was specifically asked that it needs to be delivered to the president himself. They don't want to deliver it to anyone else but the president. I hope you are hearing what I'm saying, guys. You guys are coming in late. I only have like 10 minutes left. And you guys are coming in wanting to comment now. It makes it a bit difficult. It makes it really a bit difficult. So I just want you to understand. I've been waiting for these comments since 8 o'clock. And now it's 10 minutes left. You guys are coming through. But anyways, you are still allowed to comment on my posts, because I've got posts where I was discussing this, and you're allowed to comment. You can comment if you want. Then we will have the conversation properly. Some of it I'll respond by video. Some of it I'll respond differently. Depends. But let us have the conversation. Let us have the conversation. Dialogue is a very important part of any transformative process. It is a very important part of any transformative process. No one has ever successfully propagated change and impact without dialogue. Even some of the most evil leaders that we have ever had in the world, that did some of the most terrible things in the world, they only managed to have that kind of influence through dialogue. There was dialogue. There was dialogue. And this is important. This is important. We love our fellow Africans. But all we are saying is that we cannot have this much illegal immigration traffic happening in our country. And we understand that we cannot take matters into our own hands by going into the streets and fighting people and beating them and trying to ask them to provide proof. Because some of the civilians or citizens in the country don't even know what to look for if you were to want to check whether someone is legally in the country or not. It's only Home Affairs that can do it. And when we propagate an argument and a narrative that says we want to hold government accountable, we want to hold government accountable. Unless they do something about this, we are not going to move. We are not going to go forward. I hope you are with me. I'm sharing my opinions. And I want to hear, thank you for those who are following. Thank you so much. I'm busy. I'm also reading through my notes as I'm talking. So it's not easy for me to always look at the screen. So for those comments and stuff that have gone through the cracks, forgive me. I'll deal with some of them when I'm done here, if those comments are on either my inbox. And for those of you who want to talk to me directly, please go to the inbox so that I can finish off what I'm doing right now. And everyone else who has comments and other things they want to discuss, please come to my inbox. We'll have the conversations. But this is what I am propagating. Let's separate the matters. Let's not complicate things. People have been removed from hospitals or queues in hospitals and clinics. How did we know they are illegal immigrants? Is it because when they went there, they didn't have their passport or they didn't have their papers? No one travels around with papers at hand. The best they can carry with themselves is their passport. You know, there are things that you don't automatically just carry with you whenever you walk around. And whether we remove people from whatever facility that we find them in, whether they are running a shop and we say, no, they've even started the shop illegally. And to some extent, we have tough questions to ask ourselves. If they are illegal migrants, how did they get an RDP for them to start a shop? Who gave them space in the yard for them to build a shop? Who gives them land for them to be able to do what they are doing? Sometimes, in as much as we want to blame them, but you will see that some of our money-hungry brothers and sisters are the ones that are enabling this kind of thing. But when we are not having the right kind of dialogue, even the people who are enabling these kind of things will not know. They won't know that we are realizing that they are part of the problem, and a problem that we need to resolve and fix. I hope I'm making sense, and I hope you are hearing me. This is me just sharing my opinion. Me just sharing my thoughts around this. And we need to be very clear to the rest of the world that we don't have an issue with foreigners. We just have an issue with our government allowing so many illegal foreigners in the country. Why is our system failing? And the reason why we are up in arms is because we want our government to take us seriously. We want our government to do right by us when it comes to our borders. We want it right. We want it done properly. This is important. This is important. Even if you travel the world or you go wherever you go, you can't enter that country without a visa. You can't enter that country without a valid reason why you are. Even some countries are even worse. They will want to know, who are you visiting in there? Who are you visiting? They want an address, they want a person. They want to verify that your visit is actually indeed legitimate. And the reason why that is the case is because they are enforcing their own laws. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's why it's a lot harder to get people out if they've entered illegally. Because government is now telling us it's expensive to get them out. Fair enough, we hear and we understand that. But the bottom line is that you could have saved us taxpayers money so much by keeping people out who are not able to come in legally. And they can come up with a lot of other terms and say some they are seeking asylum and all of this and all of that. Yes, if that's what they are seeking, there is paperwork that covers those kind of things. There is paperwork that covers those kind of things. But you see, when someone has come in because they are seeking asylum, you don't seek asylum and walk into a country and start businesses. You don't seek asylum, come into a country and start doing certain things. You don't seek asylum, come into a country and commit crime. I hope you're hearing what I'm trying to say to you now. So it's also a conversation that we need to have. That the countries of some of these migrants who are coming into the country must also understand that part of the reason why some of these issues are created is because of the behavior of those migrants. And I said this even last week. I said, if I go to China now, how I behave when I'm in China as a South African doesn't only affect me as a person, but it also affects the image that the Chinese people will have towards my country. If I get there and become a rascal and cause trouble and do this and do that, they'll say South Africans are like this. I hear Lulu says illegal immigrants is crazy for us to think that's the issue. Tell us what you think. What do you think is the issue there? Tell us what you think is the issue. But you see, I believe that this issue for me, it's multi-layered. But we have to deal with one layer at a time. We can't deal with all the layers at the same time. And the first layer that we have to deal with is the enforcement of our laws. Is the enforcement of our laws. We've got really good laws. That if those laws are enforced, it will put us at a level where we become one of the most highest sophisticated countries when it comes to these type of issues. Tandega says, how do you eat an elephant? Yes, one piece at a time. You don't try and bite the whole thing and finish it in one day. That's not how it works. So that's the understanding we need to have. Yes, I agree with you. No one would be needing to do this, Vampi. You are right. But the question is, or rather the issue is, it's happening. It's happening. It's happening. And because it's happening, we have to deal with it. We have to deal with it. And that's why I'm saying right now that let's avoid, how do I put it? Let's avoid cluttering the conversation by bringing too many things. We are adding too many other things to the conversation. We are adding way too many things. That's why it's complicating the issue, and it seems to be personal to other people. Because while we are having the conversation, some are talking Nigerians and drugs. They are talking Pakistanians and tuck shops. That conversation is irrelevant. The most important conversation is to say, we want to deal with the illegality. It's like if you are in a relationship and you try to fix an issue with your partner, and maybe the issue is dishonesty. You don't now sit there and say, I want to talk to you. And when they sit down, instead of you dealing with dishonesty, you say, in fact, I've been looking at you for a long time. There's so many things that you are not doing well in this relationship. You are failing there, you are failing there, you are failing there. There's also dishonesty that is involved in all of this. That person is now swallowed and swamped by everything else that you have. Now, the most critical thing that you should have dealt with is now swallowed by the rest of the noise. By the time that conversation is over, you are not going to have come out with out of that conversation with a good solution. In fact, you might have created more harm than good. You would have been better off just sitting there and keeping quiet. This is important to understand. So we don't clutter the conversation by mentioning queues in the streets, spaces in schools, and all these different things. We don't clutter the conversation. All we are saying is that we want to manage who comes in and who goes out of the country. And we want to make sure that whatever traffic we have in the border is legal traffic. And that laws are enforced properly. The rest of the things will fix themselves. Then once that layer is sorted out, we then observe and see what other layer should be dealt with. We deal with the next layer. We deal with the next, and that's how we fix this whole thing. And this is the same approach that South Africa must have even towards the government. There's no point in us piling up issues and telling government to fix corruption, to fix this, to fix that, to fix this, to fix that. It's not going to happen. And we'll keep being disappointed. We'll keep being disappointed because we want everything to be fixed. We need to be strategic and smart around how we tackle issues, even as citizens of this republic. And conversation is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful tool. That's all I had to share with you today. Thank you so much for sharing yourself and sharing some of these things, that we are dealing with the root cause and not the symptoms. The symptoms, yes, it's illegality, it's all these other things, hijacked buildings, overly populated medical facilities. It's all those things. Budgets not being able to cater for South Africans, certain things like services and rates not being able to be paid because people are stealing electricity, because the population is larger and larger. Eskom is struggling to even power up all the neighborhoods that are mushrooming everywhere in South Africa. All of that stuff is what you call symptoms. It's all symptoms. But the main issue sits at the core as how to manage the population of this country. And I hope some of you are aware that it's not just immigrants that are undocumented. So even if we have a conversation and we say undocumented immigrants, there are South Africans who are still undocumented. There are South Africans who are walking the streets undocumented. Some are homeless. Some are in poverty-stricken areas. They are undocumented. So what will happen if you mistake that person for a foreigner? What happens? Someone who was driving a truck was mistaken for an illegal immigrant, was pulled out of the truck, almost violated. Almost violated. Mehdi, you can come into my inbox. I'm almost done. Come into my inbox. We'll have a chat there. It's important to understand this. And if there are illegal immigrants, we need to understand on what grounds are they illegal. Home Affairs needs to play their role where that's concerned. Is it because our systems are slow? Maybe the thing expired a month ago. The person is still running up and down trying to renew, and the renewal is not forthcoming. What is the case? Some are probably wanting to leave the country. They can't because their paperwork is delayed. It's slow. We need to understand and argue in context to what we know. If we're saying our systems are failing, our government is doing that, our government is doing that, even for us as South Africans, how do we then expect it to be accurate when it comes to foreign people? How do we expect it to be perfect when it comes to foreign people? This is a systems failure conversation. Not entirely, obviously, and I'm the first one to concede. It's not entirely a conversation of systems failure. It's also a conversation of many other factors that come in, that play a role towards how this whole situation becomes worse. We can minimize or exacerbate the situation by how we behave on the ground as South Africans as well. We need to consider so much when we make decisions like these and when we move on the ground. It's not just the people in Africa that are in South Africa now making business. We are not denying the fact that it's a lot easier to do business in South Africa. We are not. We are not denying that. We know it's true. We know that it's true. But there's nothing stopping us doing business in other African countries. There's nothing stopping us from doing that. And there are many South Africans that are all over the world doing business. We are part of the global community. We need to have that understanding. But I'm also saying it does not mean we must tolerate illegality in our country. I understand that. We don't have to tolerate illegality. And it must be dealt with decisively. I'm not trying to try and absolve the legality. And I'm not trying to protect government. All I'm saying is that the right things must be done. Focus must be put in the right places. You have no idea how many illegal migrants are sneaked into the country, used as cheap labor, abused, and all sorts of things. The issue of illegal migrants is not just an issue of a person voluntarily just jumping the border. Some are promised stuff, a promise of a better life, and they cross your border and they come into South Africa hoping for a better life. They are never given papers. They are never given anything. Because whoever brought them is in a safer position, them not being documented, as opposed to if they are documented. Because if they are documented, they can legally come against them. But if they are not, they can't even go to the police or a court. Because as soon as they get there, they'll be arrested for being in the country unlawfully. People are even capitalizing on such a situation. And here we are saying Abahambe. Let us say that in context. Abahambe, Aboban, who must go? It's okay to say Abahambe, but who? Those who are illegal? Yes. Yes, those who are illegal must be taken back home. We agree. There's no questions about it. But importantly to note, how did they even get here in the first place? How did they even get here in the first place? Sis Lindy, that's why I don't use undocumented. I use illegal. Because undocumented, there are South Africans as well who are undocumented. So the undocumented portion is a bit risky to use. I don't even want to touch that undocumented word because it can work against us. We want the illegal ones. Because undocumented, we have many people who are undocumented in this country. A lot of people are undocumented in this country that are South African born. And we can mistake them for people who are not supposed to be in the country. This is important, guys. This is really, really important. Let's have the conversations. South Africans, let us stop running away from having difficult conversations. Let us not do that. We are putting our own country in dire straits by keeping quiet about critical issues. I hear what you are saying, Sis Lindy. How they got here is not our problem, but it could be a good analysis, because it might reveal to us, what if they are being brought in by a South African, or they are being brought in by South Africans with a promise of a better job, with a promise of money, with a promise of a good life, or this or that? What if that is the case? Lungi says, besides Abahambe, what do you have in mind? You see? This is important, guys. Let's have the real conversations. That's why I'm here, and I'm not claiming that I know what the issue is. That's why I was the first one to concede, to say, I'm sharing my analysis and my observation. When I looked and listened to the people who are speaking and the responses and everything else, this is what I could come up with. To say you have more of a systems failure problem than you have an issue of immigration. Immigration only becomes what you call an outward expression of the actual problem. You are right. Whoever brought them is a lawbreaker. But how are we going to know when we're not having the right kind of conversations? How are we going to know when our government is not creating a platform that says, come, we want to help you. Let's hear you out. How did you get here? How did you get here? Tin Man says you xenophobic. You know how I answer that question of xenophobic? As I always say to people, if you were to trace your family tree as far back as you possibly can, you will realize that you are far more connected to other African tribes and other African nations than you actually thought you were. So you hating a fellow African is the most foolish thing you can ever have. It's the most foolish thing that any individual can maintain in their heads. If you understand the genealogy of African people, you will hold yourself very quickly. I hope you are hearing what I'm saying to you now. We need to act right. Have the right kind of conversations. Have the right kind of conversations. Some of you are South African. You've got Ghanaian roots. You don't even know it. Some of you are South African. You've got Ethiopian roots. You don't even know it. Because you don't follow your own genealogy. You only know as far as your grandfather or your great-grandfather. That's how far you have gone. When you start having an appreciation of how this continent evolved, I'm telling you, you will respect a lot of things about people. And you will realize that sometimes fighting amongst ourselves is not the best solution. We need to find better conversations to have. That's all I had to say today. We are done talking legacy. You are telling the truth. That's all I had to say for today. And people must go fix their papers. They must hand themselves in. And if they've got a good reason why they got here, and that reason is because someone else was committing a crime when they brought them in here, let that information come out. Action must be taken against those perpetrators. It's human trafficking. It's called human trafficking. We always talk about human trafficking out of South Africa. There is some of it that happens into South Africa, where people take advantage of the conditions people are in their countries. And they bring them here because everyone speaks nicely about South Africa to say, we will give you the life, just come. And poor people come here and they get abused and they get exploited and all sorts of things happen. And you busy saying, Mabahambe, Mabahambe. We need to think better. It's not just about Mabahambe. We need to think better. South Africans, let's have the conversations. Yes, we can demonstrate. We can demonstrate as much as we want. It's the same way as the Zulu nation. They are linked to the Swatis. They are linked to the Swatis. There are Sotho people in South Africa who are linked to the Basotho. There are Tswana people in this country who are linked to people in Botswana. There are others who are linked to Namibians. But all they have known in South Africa, are they also immigrants? We need to be careful how we deal with issues. Hence, the conversations are critical. Let's have the conversation. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. We are dealing with illegal immigrants, not immigrants. We are dealing with illegal foreigners, not foreigners. We don't have an issue with foreigners, but we have an issue with those that enter and exploit the weaknesses of our systems and enter this country illegally. Those ones we have a problem with because they are criminals by nature. By virtue of them just entering the country without papers, they are criminals. Thank you so much. I'm done. Let's have the right conversations. Go out there. Post if you can. Go live on your page. Do a post and put it on your page. Let the rest of the world see many South Africans share a narrative that clarifies this ref we are seeing on social media. Imagine all of Africa wishing that South Africa would lose a match in the World Cup. Simply because they're not understanding where we are standing as a people. I told you the loudest mouth is not always right. The loudest mouths are always on media. The loudest mouths are always in platforms. But they are not always right. Hence, we need platforms to have conversations. Thank you, guys. See you next time. Let's talk again after the match. And let's analyze the results and what impact that match had on the South African people. Let's hear it. We will hear. Thank you so much. Keep well and take care. And thank you for those who have gifted me. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Martin, we can't meet tomorrow. We'll meet after the submission of the memorandum. It will only be submitted on the 1st. It will be submitted on the 1st. I think it's Wednesday. So when it's submitted on Wednesday, we will then have a chat, because my assumption is that there might be a speech upon the reception of that memorandum, or there might be a speech after the reception of it. Whatever the case might be, we would like to hear how our government responds to this, and we will then further take the dialogue and engage further into this conversation. But thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. See you again, probably Thursday, Friday, we'll see, depending on how the responses look like. We're obviously not going to be meeting every day discussing things, because it will also sound redundant that we are saying the same thing over and over again. Let's have real conversations. Let's see how the story unfolds and how the events unfold tomorrow. I just pray in my heart, and I'm asking all of you to also pray that it's a peaceful match. No one is harmed. No one is killed. No bloodshed. Let us just hope that with everything that happens, it will be peaceful, and we will be able to propagate the right narrative to the rest of the world, so that they understand who South Africans really are. We are people of Ubuntu. We are people of love. But it doesn't mean we must tolerate nonsense as well. Illegality, we will not tolerate. Thank you so much, guys. See you again Thursday or Friday. Thank you.